My name is Greg Vander. I'm the owner and head coach at Ringcraft Muay Thai in Portland, Oregon.
Okay, so can you tell me about the history of the gym? How did it get started?
Yeah, we started in January 1st, 2020 was our first official opening day, and then we had to close like 2.5 months later for COVID. And then we did like Zoom classes, and I was like offering private lessons to people like behind closed doors to keep their memberships active. And then now we're still going strong. I had a business partner at that time, and during COVID, or I can't remember if it was during or just after, I bought her out and then changed the name to Ringcraft. And now it's like 4.5 years later. So
how has the gym changed over the last 4.5 years?
Well, it's like changed, just like any space, the more you live in it, the more you spend time in it, you like add like decorations, like stuff like that. But it's just, I don't feel like the environment has really changed. There's just like more people now. So it's just grown. It's like been the same kind of vibe or the same feeling. It's just kind of gotten bigger. There's like more of it.
And then what are some of your goals with the gym? What was the initial goals, and how have those goals changed?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think initially my primary goals, well, one were just to like get by, right? To have enough members to like pay the rent and have my living expenses covered. And then outside of that, my primary goals were to like have a serious fight team and to travel internationally with like a professional team at some point like down the line. And that's still something that I want, but I think what's changed the most is that the thing that I think I value more than that is having a space that I enjoy being in and that I enjoy like coming to like work, and to have like a community of people that I think are cool, that I like being around, and having an outlet where I can like provide some like help to people, be it like emotional, personal, through our relationships, or just through like giving them a space to do like quote unquote authentic Muay Thai.
And so you said one of your initial goals was taking fighters internationally and sort of building that. Can you talk about that experience? You've brought fighters to fight nationally. Maybe you can talk about that.
Yeah, we have like a team of maybe like 10 or 12 fighters. So it's not very big, but we fight regionally, and then I've taken one fighter to compete at the IFMA qualifier in Denver, and he made the team, and then he went on to go compete in Thailand, and he actually got silver in he was the under 18 group, I think, or I don't remember what the ages are in IFMA, but he was like the younger group, but he got silver in IFMA, which was really cool. So I guess in a way I've taken a fighter to do that, but I didn't go with him to do it, but when he did the fight in IFMA, I didn't go.
And then you've brought some athletes nationally as well. Can you maybe talk about that?
Yeah, so I brought him to, So I brought him to Denver to compete in that tournament. I've gone to the TBA tournament a couple times, and had a few people compete there. And then we have like regional shows. We're in gyms in Oregon, but most of the shows are up in Washington, up in like Seattle, Tacoma area.
Can you tell me a little bit more about bringing the fighters to the TBAs? Was that your first trip? Have you done it several times? What was the experience like?
Yeah, we've been twice. The first time I just brought one fighter, and I learned that it's a bit of a numbers game. If you bring one fighter and you have, so much of it is luck, like who you draw, how many people are in your bracket, if you get a little injury, and then you have to modify how you compete, and then if the judges score it a certain way, and you just get unlucky. And then this year I brought 3 people, and the experience was, I don't want to say anything like too negative, but our fighters did really, really well. I was like super happy with how they competed. I tried to have them change their style slightly to accommodate for what I thought the tournament wanted, which is like forward pressure and volume. And we ended up going 2 and 3 with 3 of those fights being split decisions, which I think is sort of you know, if you know about judging, then you know that that's like somewhat problematic, having that many split decisions.
And then, what was it like cornering them, both at the TBAs and then also some of the other bouts you've cornered?
Yeah, I think the TBAs are cool. I like cornering at the TBAs because there's something about being in a room with like, you know, 800 to 1,000 other fighters, and it takes a little bit of pressure off of the fighters. Initially when we got there, I think they were a little overwhelmed. It was all three of their first time there, and I think they felt, you know, anxious around it because there's so many people. But then once the fights start, you kind of see people go in, they come back, they go in, they come back. Some people are happy, some people are sad. It's just like the spotlight's not really on them. So in that sense, I enjoy it because it feels like less pressure in many ways. And then cornering, you know, regionally, it's you know, we have to drive usually like 2 to 3 hours to get to the venue, and a lot of times there's just 1 or 2 people fighting, and so I think it feels like, you know, and then there's like people from the gym that will drive up to support. You know, often we'll have like 10 to 15 to 20 people sometimes, and I think the fighters feel a bit more pressure around that. But I just try to do what I can. I think that's something as a coach, I try to acknowledge that sort of pressure and acknowledge that anxiety, because I'm like a pretty anxious person, as you know. So that was something I dealt with when I fought, and I tried to just shine a light on it and just let them know, like, hey, this is normal. If you want to talk about it, we can talk about it. You know, it's just, you know, you just got to kind of like breathe through it and just kind of go through it, you know.
Then, can you tell me a little bit more about the local Muay Thai scene, maybe here in Portland, and then also in the greater Northwest?
Mm-hmm. So in Portland, there's, I mean, I think my gym is the only like dedicated Muay Thai gym, so where there's only Muay Thai. But there are like there's maybe like 5 other gyms that do Muay Thai, and of those 5, there's maybe like 1 or 2 that are like kind of have like a serious Muay Thai program. So the scene is pretty small, and there's really no Muay Thai fights in Oregon, in the state of Oregon. The Athletic Commission asks for a lot to make that happen. They require that they provide the officials. They take a cut of ticket sales. They ask for like money up front. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So I think that's the main limiting factor as to why people just haven't been. There have been a few shows over the years, but in Oregon, but generally it just like doesn't happen. So we have to go up to Washington because it's just less regulated there. And there's like 4 promotions in like the Seattle, Bellingham area, Tacoma, within like, Bellingham's like 5 hours drive, so I don't go to that one too much. And then Seattle's like 3 hours, Tacoma's like 2.5, so we usually go to those. But there's like 4 or 5 promotions. You can fight pretty much every other month, but a lot of times they sort of cannibalize each other, and they'll do events like really close together. And it would just be nice if we could all just get on the same page and just have like one sort of circuit where it's like, hey, we're all gonna do events and they're all gonna be related. But I get it, that's like hard. There's like personal relationships that are either there or not there, and then there's just like scheduling and logistics and stuff, so.
And something you talked about earlier was building a place that you feel comfortable at. Can you talk about that more and what that means to you?
Yeah, I think I tend to be like relatively self-deprecating, like as a sort of like form of humor. And I think that I try to do that here at the gym. Like I do that, I try not to like position myself like above anyone else, you know? When it comes time to like be a coach and say like, hey, you gotta listen, you know, I'll try to assert that, but I try to just be like funny and friendly, and I think that I want to feel like I can do that, and if I don't feel like I can do that in any sort of environment, then I maybe feel like a little bit uncomfortable. I don't feel like I can fully be myself, and so I think this being like my gym, I've tried to curate this space to feel like comfortable for me, and I think people see me feeling comfortable, and then it allows them to feel comfortable as well.
And then, since you've had the gym for 4 years, you've obviously taught a lot. Can you tell me a little bit about what you teach here and some of what you emphasize?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of like the stadium style Muay Thai. I guess I identify as a FEMA, but it's like very low level FEMA fighter. But I try to teach around like the sport of Muay Thai and like what scores and what doesn't. And I often will try to, I'll coach like one concept for like a whole week and then I'll move to a different concept. And I often will do it around styles. So I'll say like, okay, we're gonna do like a more of a FEMA week where we're like kicking and teeping and angling and like protecting our points and trying to be like defense and counter. And then another week we'll do like, okay, we're gonna focus more on knees and be more forward pressure, like more cow style. And that doesn't mean only knees, right? Like we'll do combinations into a knee or like throwing hands to set up into a knee or like teeps to march and clinch a knee. So I try to coach based on like the sport and like the scoring and what scores and then like how different styles interplay with each other.
And then can you tell me a little bit about some of the seminars you've had and what experience that is like?
Yeah, as we've like talked about already, the scene in Portland is like relatively small. In Oregon in general, there's not a ton of gyms. There's some gyms in Eugene and there's just not a lot of Muay Thai there's a decent amount of gyms in the Pacific Northwest as a whole, but in Oregon it's just not that big. So I try to, bring in people like Smilla, who's here with you, and I brought in a handful of people, like international fighters, people who live in Thailand, people who are who formerly like lived in the UK but now are in like California, just to try to like give people a chance to train with higher level people who wouldn't normally come through this area. And I can like name some if you like, but I don't know if that's...
Yeah, can you tell me maybe a little bit about, say, what Jaleel taught and then go on and talk about Smilla's seminar?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like I brought in Jaleel Barnes, who is from Ohio originally and now lives in Thailand, trains at Phuket Fight Club, but he taught I think like similar approach to the way that I like to coach, which is like talking about the point, like what scores and what doesn't and how things are judged. And so he, I think, has a cool perspective because he's like lived in Thailand for a little while. He's fluent in Thai. He fights in the stadiums, but he's also a native English speaker. So he's able to kind of communicate like the nuances of Muay Thai to a Western audience in a way that like if you brought a Thai person in who can show it but they don't have the language to kind of communicate in fully like what they're doing. So yeah, he coached a lot of like scoring and what scores and how the judges look at it, even how the gamblers impact the sport as well in each fight as well.
And then can you tell me a little bit about what Smilla taught and what that experience was like?
Yeah, what Smilla did was really cool. She showed and she referenced like her fights. So she showed a lot of what she does in her fights. It's cool because she's such a high level person and the stuff she showed is like relatively basic, and it just like reiterates like the basics are what you need to be successful, but she would reference like the fight that she did it in and like what her opponent did as a response and how she would sort of like how that made her feel and what she would sort of like do as a reaction or response to that. So she did a lot of like she started the seminar with like some footwork, some like relatively basic footwork, but it's like these are the 3 different types of footwork that we were going to be using that would be like a base for each combination. So we would do the footwork into whatever combination she was showing.
Okay, can you tell me where to find the gym, the location, how to contact you, etc.?
The gym is Ringcraft Muay Thai. It's in Portland, Oregon. The Instagram is at Ringcraft Muay Thai, and my Instagram is at Bander Muay Thai.